President was wonderful, as always, informative, funny. Told me he liked seeing me on TV. Yeah, he signed a bunch of stuff. It's cool.
So Donald Trump is bribing United States Republican congressmen to vote for this budget bill. The Freedom Caucus, the most dedicated to the prospect of freedom and liberty, and they have their ideologies all square. You can't sway them. You certainly can't bribe them. And what if you were to attempt to bribe a Freedom Caucus member? What would it take? Something notably, it would have to be something very off the charts, very valuable to make a dent into the integrity of a Republican member of the Freedom Caucus, right? If you thought right, no, you're wrong. Here's a headline from the New York Times. Trump goes on charm offensive as he woos holdout Republicans. President Trump worked the phones and welcomed Republicans to the White House to cajole them into supporting his mega bill. They left with signed merchandise and photos of the Oval Office. That's all it takes. And if you're questioning, that's just the New York Times. There's no way that's true, right? There's no way that that's all it takes to get into the mind, to convince one of these stalwart ideologues in the Freedom Caucus to vote for Donald Trump's bankrupting bill. The bill that's going to add trillions and trillions of dollars to the national debt while robbing 16 or 17 million Americans of their health insurance, decimating the poor and working class in this country, adding to the funding in our already Nazi-like security state with Donald Trump's secret police. It's a nightmare. So if you think that, no, it would take more than that, you'd be wrong, because here is Tim Burchett, one of these Freedom Caucus dipshits, talking about with gushy giddiness about his autograph merch from the dipshit fascist President of the United States.
At the White House today, we watched a parade of Republicans filing into the West Wing as President Trump engaged in a charm offensive to try to win them over. Some of those that you saw going into the West Wing here on West Exec, that driveway right by the White House, are moderates who are skeptical of the bill and its changes that it makes to Medicaid. Others are from the far-right House Freedom Caucus. They say they're not on board with this bill because of the trillions of dollars it is projected to add to the federal deficit. All of them are seeking assurances from the president that they'll get something out of voting yes. And some of them also seem to be looking for swag.
The president was wonderful, as always, informative, funny. Told me he liked seeing me on TV, which is kind of cool. I'm incredibly humble.
What he signed for you?
Yeah, he signed a bunch of stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. No shame, no dignity. These are grown adult men who are, it's really cool. The president signed something for me, Donald Trump. This is how the New York Times categorized it. A clique of House Freedom Caucus members walked out of the White House in the early afternoon, their attitudes seemingly adjusted. Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican of Tennessee, was one of them. He posted a video on social media that I just showed you, gushing about the 2-hour experience he'd just had with his president. Quote, "The president was wonderful as all." I'm not going to read all the quotes. You just watch the video. Mr. Burchett told the New York Times later on that his name had been misspelled on the placard placed in front of his chair for the cabinet room meeting. It was missing an R. So the president scribbled in the letter, signed both sides of the card, and gave it to him as a souvenir. Mr. Burchett said the president also loaded up the son of Representative Chip Roy, Republican of Texas, with souvenirs. Tchotchkes. They're selling out the United States of America for autograph merch, going against long-held beliefs, long-held ideas about the budget, about spending, about being good stewards of the American taxpayer dollar, about the CBO itself. Tim Burchett was on CNN last night with Breonna Keeler. And she took him to task, a rare moment of good journalism from Brianna Keilar and the CNN team, holding Tim Burchett to account for his previous adoration and respect and adherence to the findings of the CBO, that he now is saying is a partisan operation, even though it's run by a Republican. Watch this. And also, he's doing the old, can't hear you, ma'am, what are you saying, y'all? Watch this.
So you're taking issue with the CBO estimate here?
Yes, ma'am, I do have an issue with it. The office is very partisan. I mean, 85% of the people in their healthcare division identify as a Democrat, or they've contributed to Democrats, or they're registered Democrats. They're leading, I believe their leading economist is that. We ought to do away with these organizations because we use them when we like them. We don't use them when we don't like them. And you've got a bunch of bureaucrats in here that are on a lifetime gravy train. And frankly, we've got independent agencies that can do that. We have people up here with accounting degrees that can do the math. So I feel like that is a waste of taxpayers' money.
So in January 2024, there was a Republican who trusted the CBO so much that they reintroduced a resolution to require the House clerk to read the CBO estimate of any bill. I believe that was you, sir, the third time you introduced that resolution. Is that right?
That's correct, ma'am. Of course, and that proves
but
just
you
what
don't
I
like
said.
The you don't like the CBO now.
Ma'am?
But you don't like the CBO now. You introduced that resolution over multiple years, but now you're dissing the CBO.
Did the bill pass?
Your resolution?
Did the bill pass? Yes, ma'am.
You introduced it, sir.
I know,
It's
ma'am,
irrelevant.
But did it pass? They never pass because nobody wants any verification. It proves my point. When it serves us well,
you took a stance and you were
we're for it, but when it doesn't, we don't. So
you're clear about where you are
like,
on the CBO. I just want to say, but just to get to where you said earlier that you were closer to voting yes after speaking with the president. I saw the vice president sent you put a nice tweet up that you responded to. What did the president say to you that made you feel maybe closer to voting yes?
He talked about the economic output that we would have that was not in the CBO scores, and along those lines, he talked about other things that I'm not going to share, but because it was in privacy. But I think there's a lot of things that will probably be revealed when this is passed, and I think America will embrace it further.
I mean, what he didn't tell you is that he got some merch. Listen, Brianna. Yeah. I used to have very strongly held beliefs and dedication to the prospect of the budget and being good stewards and all the things that Republicans talk about, right? About the debt, about the deficit, about not bankrupting, not saddling our grandchildren with all kinds of debt, they used to say all the time. They still do. But, I know I said that, but I got merch. Donald Trump scribbled with his giant Sharpie, his gaudy, weird signature. Of course he's going to sell out the country. You would too if you got signed merch from Trump. These are unserious people. Unfortunately, they are unserious people leading in very serious times. Tim Burchett, tip of the spear, acts as though he's a mighty righteous man of God, a God-fearing Christian man who wants to advance the philosophies and the teachings, the theology of Jesus Christ. Yet he's going to kill God's children, take food from the mouths of hungry. The sick will die without health insurance. All of the things that Jesus talked about advancing, he is against because he is a liar, he's a charlatan, and he is a weak-minded goober who can be bought with Trump merch, who can be bought with a placard that misspelled his name. They have so little respect for him, they didn't even spell his fucking name right. Yet, where do I sign? Where do I vote yes on the bill? Good job, Burchett. Every one of these monsters needs to be voted out of office in the midterms. Remember this, Tennessee. Remember this moment. He sold you out for Trump merch. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think? I want your feedback on this. You can comment below. If you're from Tennessee, especially if you're in his district, I want to hear from you. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I appreciate you. If you feel the same way and you want to help support this work financially for $2 a month, that's what you can do. Click the join button below, become a channel member. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast and help support this work that I think is very important. And I hope you share that opinion. I'd appreciate it very much. Follow me on social media. If you're around there, I am @Dollemore just about everywhere. And I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.